Most people who are finally successful at releasing weight actually struggled for years, gaining and losing on average over 250 pounds over the course of their life. Steve was a weight struggler, a good part of his life, but he came to that place where he made a deeper decision that this just wasn't about weight. This was about his life. Hearing his inspiring story and how he found a vision and his inner coach and his ideal weight from that inner place of weight mastery is what today's episode is all about. So come on in. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Well, hello. Come on in and sit down and get cozy. I have a great and inspiring interview with Steve, who went through the Shift Weight Mastery process this last spring. Steve is a really inspiring guy. You are going to love him. He's got an amazing voice. It's just so cozy. And he was at a kind of fork in the road that we all get to, but he really dug deep and made the decision to really commit to himself and to his weight journey. I think you're going to really find our conversation very motivational. Steve is very generous with himself and what he talks about, how he talks about his journey. And speaking of motivation, if you're ready to get aligned with yourself and head into the autumn aligned with your own weight journey, please join me on Wednesday, the 28th of September, 2022, because I am hosting my free masterclass, How to Break Through the Weight Struggle Cycle so that you can lose weight consistently and permanently. We're going to do some hypnosis. We're going to cover a lot of points, and these classes are really powerful. I give you 110%. I love talking about this stuff, and really the main thrust of it is creating 3 mental shifts that are going to get you really focused and going forward on your journey, because really ultimately these are the 3 major roadblocks on a subconscious level that I see people having that are keeping them in that, start over. I'm going to, start over again tomorrow, and struggling with their weight and getting off track really easily. And that self-sabotage that we do to ourselves when we know what to do. Why are we not doing it? Well, come with me and let's figure it all out together. And it's free, so why the hell not? The link is in the show notes. Please join me. Okay, so now let me dive into my interview with Steve. Well, hello, Steve. Thank you, and welcome to the Thin Thinking podcast. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you so much, Rita.
I know you came in with the last Shift Weight Mastery process, and you came in with such an amazing energy. Like, I could just tell you were going to be successful because your mind was just in the right place, but you were like a ray of sunshine. You just cast sunshine upon all of your posts. You were just such a positive energy. So I want to, first of all, thank you for that. And thank you
Yeah.
for just being you. But I want to hear more about, because I don't know, and I'm really curious, like, what was your journey like before the shift, and I am interested, um just in you as a human being, but also as a man. We were chatting about that a little ahead of time, and I'll ask you more about that later, but just like your journey in your life through managing your weight. Did you always struggle with weight, or is this something that happened along the way? Like, tell me a little bit about your
Yeah,
initial
I
struggle.
have. I've struggled with weight pretty much my whole life. Uh, I I blame my grandmother for that when I grew up.
Why? What'd she do?
She always had cupcakes and she had Charlie chips, potato chips, and salt. So I had sweet and salt after school pretty much every day of my life up till the time I went to
Really?
college. And that just, I don't know. And being Italian too with pasta,
Mm.
um, I think it all added up for me that I was on a path where weight
Did
was
your
going to be a problem.
did your family like come around? I mean, if you're Italian, was part culturally like food is love, the typical stereotypical Italian grandmother, eat, eat,
It
food is
sure
love.
is. Yeah, everybody sits around the table. It's kind of family style on Sundays with pasta and different kinds of things. Yep. That's how I
Oh,
grew up.
yeah. So I'm sure you have fond memories of that, but then there's the challenges with the what it caused for you in struggling with weight. Did anyone in your family struggle? Parents, grandparents, anybody very
Not
much?
not really. I think I've just had this problem where I would be kind of like a yo-yo. I'd be up and then I'd be down, then I'd be back up.
Mm,
And I had a corporate job where I was working all the time and sometimes couldn't get to the gym. So there are just a lot of factors where I always struggled trying to be at my ideal weight.
yeah. And did you find that before the shift, did you go on a number of regimes throughout, your life? Like how old were you when you went on your first diet?
Oh gosh. I laugh at this. It was probably I was 26 years old and I think I weighed 185 pounds, and for whatever reason I thought that was a lot. And I went on, I don't know what it was, where all you do is eat cheese and meat, and that was it, and nothing else. And I think 30 pounds later, when I was 155 and looked jaundiced and yellow, I knew I had a problem. That wasn't working for me. So I think that's the first time I did. But then more recently, I would say in the last 10 years, when I was really looking at my weight as I've aged, um, I tried different things like Weight Watchers. I went to groups and things like that, and then I did Nutrisystem, and then I did things on my own. I tried different kind of diets that I saw online, and I did have success. I would lose. I've lost 50 pounds,
Mm,
40 pounds, and 30 pounds respectively.
right.
But every time I put it back on. So I think I
Yeah.
started at about 230, 240 pounds, got down to 190, then got back up to 230, got it back to 200. Yeah. So
And you struggle with type 2 diabetes, is that correct?
I do. I do. Yeah. It happened about 6, 7 years ago. My blood sugar was over 500. I was having
Wow.
all kinds of problems. Um, and I've been trying to treat that for the last 6, 7 years. And over the past 6 months, I just wasn't able to control it. 6, 7 months, it was averaging between 250, 300 almost on a daily basis, even
Oh my,
with one and the metformin and other things that I took. And my
wow.
weight was up.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, so when you wanted to, like what was different, what was important for you in this journey for weight loss this time? Like what made this time different for you as far as your own, before we get into the shift and stuff, like for you, what was important about this for you?
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. I'll tell you, I got to the point where I was really frustrated. I kept going to the doctor saying, in 6 months when you see me, I'm going to be in shape. And, I just never able to achieve it. I don't know, Rita, what happened, but I had my 69th birthday on March 29th of this year.
Happy
And
birthday.
I was just, I was out of sorts. My health was not good at that point. I felt lethargic. My spiritual life wasn't, where I wanted it to be. And, emotionally, it was, I kind of woke up that day and said, wait a second, this is my birthday, and as if you're 69 years old, you look at the quality of your life and the time you have left. And then I said to myself, what can I do to really leave a legacy in my life? And what I realized is that if I was going to make any change, health was the number one thing. I didn't
Mm,
have anything else in my life if I couldn't control my diabetes. Um, so it was a wake up call for me. I really wanted to have quality in my life. I felt drained. I felt exhausted. I felt like I was stuck and feeling I was kind of always fighting a losing battle, especially around weight. And in that moment, it's just, I know sometimes it happens with people. It was just like, call it flash of light or something. I just said, this time it's going to be different. I've got 100% commitment and I'm really going to make this work. And
mm.
I'll tell you, ever since that day, I've given it 100% and just,
Well, I think something you're saying is really important for our listeners to get, and I'm sure those of you listening have maybe had these moments where it's, on a psychological level, there's the internal locus of control and external locus of control. And a lot of times, like what you were saying, is you would go on these diets and you could lose weight, but it was kind of like the diet was the external control, like that you were giving the power to the diet. And what I hear the shift was for you, even before coming into the shift, you were like, I'm going to take 100% responsibility. I'm creating this rather than going on this. Do you follow and I think that that is, for anyone to have long-term success, I think that first step is taking 100% responsibility and committing, like you said, not from like, well, I'm going to try this, or, let me go on this thing, because we're so thrown to like look for that external force outside of us. Oh, let me go on Weight Watchers. Let me go on Jenny Craig. It's just like, I mean, there's a lot of choices out there now, but it used to be like, New Year's came around and you were like, okay, is it Jenny Craig? Is it Weight Watchers? Is it Atkins? But I hear from you, it was like that was the click that you needed, was your own, okay, this Steve is doing this for Steve, and this is like you're all in.
yeah, a couple things on that, Rita, too, is, yeah, I held myself accountable. Um, and, um, I'm sorry, there was a phone call that was
Oh,
coming in.
oh, no problem. That happens. But
Yeah,
you held yourself
yeah,
accountable, is what I
I held
hear.
myself accountable, but I said this time it's going to be different for me. I'm going to do it with support, and it was, Rita, bigger than just the way the health side of it.
Right.
I'm a big advocate of mind, body, and spirit balance. And when I found myself, hey, I'm out of sorts here, I
Mm,
really took it that this was going to be, including my health, my mind, my body, spiritually. I wanted to put it all together, but I wanted to also not do it by myself. I wanted support. So when I
mhm.
looked at it, from, call it the mind, I've got a best friend that's a therapist, and, he just kind of sat down with me to help me kind of move to a more positive mindset. And I've got
Mhm.
friends that, I kind of reached out to, spiritually. I found this great app. It was called Insight Timer.
Oh
And
yeah, I know that app. Mhm.
oh, it's beautiful. And I took this 30-day and 40-day journey of meditation, and I just found myself, wow, talking to other people as well on a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual side. And then when it came to, hey, what am I going to do for my body? I was fortunate enough to find you.
Aw.
It was I was turned on by the podcast that I went to, but somebody had sent me a link before and said, "Hey, why don't you try this? This is something that has worked for others." And I certainly found that, hey, maybe with Rita's program, this is something that might work for me in hypnosis. And so for me, I just felt this was an opportunity for an overall makeover, get my health together, spiritually and, emotionally, and just kind of shift out of that, I don't know, almost feeling like a victim to taking charge and just saying,
Mm.
I'm in control here and I'm really going to make the most out of my life.
Right. I like what you're saying too. I think so many people right now, I mean, you said this happened around March, and I know 69 is a big year, like a real turning point year, a real evolution point in your life. But I also think a lot of us at that time, the spring of this year, the spring of 2022, was a hard year for a lot of people
Mm.
because of we were coming out of COVID, or we were in COVID, and just so much going on out in the world, the war, the recession, inflation, all that stuff. I won't call it recession, but the inflation and just a general sense of apathy for a lot of people, and anxiety, like a real time of soul searching, like what you were saying, like what am I doing, where am I going, because we were all hit pause for 2 years. In a way, we went into survival mode, and we were coming out and going, the world is different, I'm different, I've got all these choices, but I feel overwhelmed by them, and I don't know where to get started. And it sounds like you kind of were able to kind of dig deeper and go, okay, um, I'm going to start, like with the most important first steps. Connecting with spirit, connecting with myself, connecting with my body. I'm kind of curious, Steve, what about hypnosis was interesting to you? And had you ever done any sort of hypnosis before?
I had not. Um, I had heard, I think there was a sample of the hypnosis that
Mm-hmm.
um, there was also the meditation. So I kind of listened to that. And I guess when I think of hypnosis, it's the old school where, I'm going to fall asleep here
Right.
and knows what's going to happen. But I found that it was very similar to the guided meditations I
Mm-hmm.
did.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was, even from the very first one I did, I found that it was really instilling something in me that I consciously was remembering. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
it planted subconsciously, but um, I could tell that, hey, there's something sticking here. And I think that was the start of it. And then
Mm-hmm.
I got into the program, which we can talk about. I was just extremely faithful to
Yeah.
the meditations, hypnosis, and all the work.
The structure of the program. Yeah. And but the inner work that you were doing made a difference. Now, this is interesting because, and I know I'll tell our listeners, Steve and I had a bit of a chat beforehand, is that, you know, you obviously are a man. And I think I am seeing more and more men come to me. And I'm interested by that because I think men, ironically, have the same challenges, struggles as women emotionally around weight, but I don't think culturally they're allowed to in many ways, because most of the weight loss for guys out there is really dude weight loss, like eat a bunch of meat, rip, get the six pack abs, but it's really not addressing the human being underneath the dude. It's like the guy, the real true you. Now here you are, you seem very connected to yourself and very soulful, but like what was your experience like being out in the world struggling with your weight for a number of years, did you feel shut out? Did you feel like not connected to, I mean, like, I'm just kind of curious from a man walking through the world of weight loss in the
Yeah,
last, decades, like what was that like?
yeah, that's kind of interesting. I can tell you when I was going to say like my Weight Watchers groups, there would be say 30 people in the room and 27 women and three guys. It was always I always felt the outsider. And I Googled things online, and a lot of the things were kind of geared towards women.
Hmm.
You kind of talked about, the cultural side of this. Um, I think, first of all, I don't know, maybe God created men with bigger egos.
True. I might say that you're right there, Steve.
That's the case because a lot of it, especially I go to the gym a lot, and there's two or three different camps for men, and one of them is that whole I got to look my best, and I've got
Hmm.
tools and I've got to do all this. And then there's this other group that's the tone group, the runners and things like that. And then there's the others that I'm okay the way I am. But I think you brought up a good point, the emotional side. Guys don't really talk about their emotions a lot. I think, we live in a culture where men are supposed to be seen as being strong, especially
Hmm.
they're seen as providers. If they have a problem, like I remember my father just basically saying, suck it up, figure it out yourself, and I think men, the first thing they try to do is solve their own problems. And if they have challenges and if they have something with weight, they're not going to go public with it. They're going to try to do it themselves first. And I think that's, conditioned part of the culture. And I think it's just the way, men have been groomed in our society. And, we're supposed to be strong and tough, and we're not supposed to cry, and we're not supposed to show, you know,
Right.
others us to the world. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're hitting upon is, I guess, the cultural difference, like in the 60s when the dieting, 50s and 60s when the dieting culture really kind of started, like took off. Uh, Women were measured by their looks and their attractiveness. Like, so, we were, I mean, in many ways, we weren't supposed to be out there succeeding in the world. Like you were saying, your dad said, just go out in the world, look good, be successful, suck it up, don't show your, and women were, here we are, your weight became part of your value, and your ability to look good in a dress or in a bathing suit was like part of your, am I enough? Am I worthy? And I don't know that that was so true for men, but I think it's become more so, especially with social media, especially with images everywhere. But I think all along the need for men has been the same, but it just culturally, like you said, guys were not supposed to show, guys were not supposed to have a problem with their weight, or if they did, they didn't share that. They just tried to figure it out.
Yeah, it's seen as maybe a sign of weakness, maybe, or at least that's my experience. If a man asks for help, maybe they're not showing they're strong enough. Um,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
people have reservation around that. And maybe it's just the men that I've come in contact with, but maybe that's not the norm. But
Yeah. I don't know. It is fascinating. So, with regards to this process or this time, um, as you have already said, you kind of dove into this with 100% commitment. Um, how was your journey through the shift weight mastery process? Like, why was it different this time for you?
wow, that's a good question. Let's just say I was a very good student.
You were.
Everything I was supposed to do, anything I was asked to do, I read materials, I watched the videos, I did the meditations each day. I would reinforce the hypnosis a couple times a day when I started, and then made sure I did it daily after I understood it a little bit. I loved the support network with the Facebook support group that we all had as
Mm,
a group
yeah.
going through the process where, I could post things and I could get support from people, or I saw somebody that might be struggling and I could offer them something. So, and then just the commitment that you have, Rita. I mean, your daily emails and the huddles and the meetings that we had, I just made sure that I was participating. I took it very seriously. And I think one of the biggest things for me, which I really hadn't been doing faithfully before, was I committed to start counting my calories each day. I knew
Mm-hmm.
what my calorie budget was, and I knew to lose weight, I had to be under my budget.
Mm-hmm.
I just made sure that I supplemented it with walking 3 miles a day and then
Mm-hmm.
working out as well, maybe up to 5 times a week. You would have never seen me doing that before March 29th. uh, but I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the hypnosis, but I just had a jump start, and I've been recording my calorie intake now. Today's day 104 consecutively being under my calorie budget, and my
Wow.
weight shows the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people hear like tracking, tracking your food, tracking what you're eating as like, uh-oh, that sounds scary. I don't want to do that. That a lot of people have because it comes from this very old and maybe because you haven't been immersed in the world of, well, I know you have been, but I think one thing that I want to point out what Steve's talking about that we in the shift weight mastery process, we use tracking more as data to get clear rather than this idea of like counting calories to be good, like to like, oh, I'm only, but more to stay cognitively correct, because that's something that a lot of people are challenged by as they get into very much a habitual mindset, which is called good or bad, on or off, all or nothing. And the why of the tracking is to really get black and white and very clear about where you are. And it's interesting because people get very stressed out about this idea. It's like that's going to take more time and it's going to make me feel like I'm deprived, but it actually opens doors. And I was curious about your experience with that, like how it helped you stay out of that sort of emotional place and get what I call the inner scientist. We're able to get clear and rational with yourself because that's the way you break the habit of, I'll start again tomorrow, is you get rational in those moments where, maybe you would say, oh, I blew it. I'll start over tomorrow.
Yeah, and I wasn't gonna start over tomorrow. And I learned, I'm fortunate, Rita. Maybe it's just because of my commitment. I don't know. I would say I'm a little bit of an exception, possibly because most people, I would say, have some setbacks. They fall back. They may, be over their calorie budget, or they may have stopped walking for 3 or 4 days. For me, I was just in the rhythm and sync. For
Mm,
me, once a week or 2 weeks passed, I was on it. As I look back, I was a smoker out of college and high school, college. And in 1982, I took my last cigarette. I just said, I cannot do this anymore. It felt awful. And I quit cold turkey. And it's been 40 years without a cigarette.
good for you.
On March 29th of 1992, same thing with alcohol. I just said, I can't do this anymore. And I'm just one of these fortunate guys that have never had a drink since.
Wow,
And I'm
that's
thinking
amazing.
this is different for me because I don't see this as a diet. I just saw this and see it now as a total change of lifestyle. I have to do this as a priority to maintain my health. And, the success that I've had, um, I think kind of proves to me that, this isn't a stop start kind of thing. And I think I'm just fortunate that and maybe it's a hypnosis, but there's something ingrained in me that says, keep on going. You're in the rhythm, and let's just make this work.
Right. Well, I think once I think what hypnosis helps is to break the old patterns and beliefs. And then once you create, and it's this idea of creating something new. And what I hear is you created a new identity, which is important. And then you created a path forward, which wasn't about deprivation, but transformation. Like you were really
Yeah.
transforming your path ahead, seeing yourself different, so, as somebody who got up and exercised, as somebody who made different food choices. How did you change your environment? Like, I'm kind of curious about that. I know you talked to us about your support system and your, like, I know you have people in your life who are supporting you as well, but like, did you change your environment at all? You know?
Um, my husband is a great supporter, and my best friend. We do a lot together, and we share a lot of meals, and the friends I have, we do a lot. I guess I'm a pretty social person, so they really supported me and my friends in making sure when it was time to eat that we had healthy choices.
Oh,
And
nice.
there was going to be some kind of a dessert, there was always, it was almost like having to sit at the kids table. The kids got the adults got the cheesecake, and I got my 90 calorie something, and I got to participate. But I knew I was doing it for me. And
Right.
with a lot of support, when I went out to restaurants, I was very conscious of, what the menu was, the choices that I wanted to make for foods. Um, and I'll tell you, the shift weight release community on Facebook has been so supportive. Anytime that, I've had a couple down days where I posted some things online, and boy, the support that I got and the encouragement to kind of go on.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think the people in that community are just special, and I like to think of them as extraordinary human beings, all of them. And there is people in there are incredibly supportive. So now, Steve, do you have almost, or are you at your maintenance weight? Like, what is the like ongoing now that you're like, how much have you released? Like, maybe share with us, like, out now that you're through the process, you've released it. Talk to us about that part of the journey and like,
Yeah, let me tell you first, a few of my goals that I had,
oh
and then
yeah,
what success looks like. When I
yes,
started, I'm the scientist here, so I had an exact weight of 213.8 pounds, and I had this vision that I wanted to get to 190 pounds by August 1st. So that was 23.8 pounds is what my goal was. I talked to you a little bit about my sugar numbers were 250 a day, and
yeah,
I them into a normal range. I had an A1C. For those of you who don't know, my number was extremely high. It was 12.6. And even at that time, I was experiencing some, heart fibrillations and things. So I knew that I really had to do something here. Um, so, with that said, I kind of broke my weight release goal into three phases. One was, okay, within the first 30 days, there was a 7 day prep to start the 30. So I call it the 37-day period. I wanted to get from 213.8 down to 200. Then in the next phase, by July 1st, I wanted to get to 195, and then 190 by August 1st. And, I can tell you, I met each of those goals.
amazing.
Yeah, and I did my blood panel and all, and right now I think I told you this the other day in an email. I weighed in at 189.8, and it was just first seemed so foreign to me because I've never seen a number in the 180s for a long time. Uh,
Wow.
my body, when I look in the mirror, I'm really looking good. I'm building some muscle now. I can tell you my A1C number, which was 12.6. dropped in the 90 days down to 6.5, which
Amazing.
is unheard of. Even my cholesterol was down from 188 to 128. So it was just a lot of changes, and realizing the goal. I had another fun goal that I had. I was just tired of trying to get into size 38 shorts for the summer. And I said, at the end of this period, I'm going to be in size 34 shorts.
I love it.
And I can tell you, I'm wearing size 34 shorts and they're a little loose on me. So that's a really
Woo! You go, Steve. That's awesome. That is really, I think sometimes having those more visceral, kinesthetic things like that, feeling like that you want to be in those 34s and that feeling that you want to have. So I think the brain really responds to that, sometimes more than a number on the scale.
I think so. And I don't know what it was, but I know it came from hypnosis because there you would say things like, I love eating vegetables or so, and it was just like, are you kidding me now? Come on now. Who are you talking to? I'm a king of sugar. And I I've eaten more vegetables in my daily life than
Oh.
we talk about, the first thing that I do when I wake up is I can't do anything unless I'm outside doing my 3 mile walk. It's just
Mhm.
like get up at 6:30 in the morning before I was sleeping in. And, I've got just this beautiful environment. I live in Palm Springs, and every other weekend I'm on the beach in San Diego. So I've got this
Wow.
beautiful scenery where I can do my walks each morning, and it's just really inspiring. And I don't know. I think it's just that it's not like work anymore. It's just something that I do. And
Well, and so speaking of that, it's something that you do. Um, in this shift, we cultivate that inner coach. So, and I know you're a coach professionally, Steve. So tell me a little bit about how you cultivated that inner coach around your journey. Like, or, just talk to me a little bit about that part of it.
yeah, I think part of the program was that a big part is what we call our inner coach, and it's call it the voice of how we talk to ourselves. It's how we're guided, maybe. It's like being the parent in the room when you're a kid, and and you want to goof off, and you want to do it in a loving and compassionate way to honor, hey, I hear you today. You're having a day where it's kind of challenging for you. And rather, getting the finger pointed, and, get back
Shame,
on track or else, for
right?
me, it's just this reassuring guidance. It's just, hey, you're on the track, keep it up. You're doing this for yourself, you're doing it for your health, you're doing it for the people that you love, you're doing it for quality of life. And I think I have those conversations kind of with myself. I, uh, I do talk to myself when there's not people around in a very positive way. You mentioned my work. I'm a life coach. I'm a certified life coach. I worked 35 years in the corporate environment with Wells Fargo and Bank of America, and then I did stints working in recovery as director of operations for a treatment center. And
Oh, wow, cool.
yeah, and I just found it's really time to retire, but my focus is really going to be on life coaching. And what I did is kind of, as I look at how I work with clients, how do I work with myself? And it is that kind of those conversations I have with myself. I do accept the guidance of the peers, in the Facebook group. You always have a lot of great insight, whether it's coming from the meditation or hypnosis or whatever. Um, and then I find it's up for me to integrate that. I just can't leave it there. I've got to
Mm.
kind of integrate it into my spiritual practice. Talked about before when this started, mind, body, spirit balance. And for me, this isn't just one part of the stool. They all have to work kind of together. So this is actually part of my spiritual kind of connection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and when I need a pep talk, what I do is it's quiet time. I've got this incredible thing called Liquid Mind. It's beautiful music. You can get on YouTube or iTunes. I'm a big supporter of that. Just calming, quiet music. And I'll just turn the music on and just kind of sit still and just kind of listen to however I'm guided or whatever
Mm.
and then I just kind of intuitively know what corrections I may need to make. And if it's related to, the weight release or any other area of my life where I kind of feel out of balance. And I, it's a voice that I have, like I said, an internal voice that's kind of filled with encouragement, acceptance, and most importantly, gratitude. I'm really
Mm.
thankful for where I'm at.
Well, you've really, like you said, made a commitment, immersed yourself in the world, and learned a lot of lessons along the way. And I think you're pointing out something that's very important is being open to coaching or other ideas. I think something that people don't. I think the diet industry has given us a very linear idea of what weight loss is. And weight loss, like you said, it isn't just about the, it's not about the food. It's so much of it is about what you're talking about, that inner communication system. And and it really does become, without going into the woo-woo California speak, but because I mean it from a very practical standpoint. I mean that our ability to be compassionate towards ourselves, our ability to see the lessons instead of criticizing ourselves, and being willing to maybe not have to look perfect, but just have to uh, just stay on the path is so important. And I think the dieting industry kind of takes our power away in that way. Not that we're victims of the dieting industry, but I think that it's important to understand that we've been culturally thrown towards those ideas. It's very hard. Many people get addicted to being perfect, but unfortunately, none of us are going to be perfect. As you said, you had off days, but
Yeah.
you self-corrected, got back on, had some compassion for yourself, learned the lesson. And in order for us to get past those, to learn from, in order to improve and move on, we need to learn those lessons. And sometimes others might have feedback for you that, whether it's in a group or the ones that are around you, like your friends. Steve, you work with people. You mentioned you're a coach, and I know Steve has a coaching program. I'm going to put his link in our show notes. Tell us a little bit about how you work with people.
Great, great. Well, as I was looking into retirement, my last position that I retired 3 times. I got out of the corporate world and then I went back, volunteered at the hospital, and then kind of got immersed in patient relations and said, okay, this feels like work to me, so I'm going to quit again. And then I wanted to just kind of help out with my 30 years of sobriety in the recovery area. So I just took like an administrative position, which turned out to be director of operations for
Oh my
3
God.
of our facilities of a company that I worked with. And in that role, I worked with those that were going through the treatment process and in recovery, detox recovery. I worked with men primarily.
Hmm.
And that's where I really found that men really, have their own unique struggles. And
Hmm.
as I was doing life coaching, I got my certification a couple years back and knew that I was going to do this in retirement. So as of January of this year, I did retire from all of my past corporate jobs, and I'm focusing on life coaching. I do try to focus with men. I work with women as well, but I know men have, like you said, a harder time asking for help. And
Yeah.
if I can kind of break through life coaching really is about, how do we improve our lives? What vision do we have for our life? It's very much like this process of weight release. What's the vision? What do you want to look like? What's your
Yeah.
goal? And when you look at, say, if I'm trying to help someone, what's the vision that you have for your life? How do you want to mature? How do you want to grow? What are things that are important to you? And if there's goals, how can I help you to achieve some of those goals? And then, just like myself, holding myself accountable, I try to hold my clients accountable as well. Here are some action steps. Can you commit to doing one or two things before we meet next week? And I've just had tremendous success with, the people that have come to me, where they started their journey and kind of where they end up. It's just, I don't know, it's extremely rewarding.
Yeah, it
And
must be very gratifying to help people in that way. And
it,
it is interesting, like with weight, so often, because I work with people in other ways, that often people know what they don't want, but they're not quite sure what they do want. If you want to ask them, like, what do you really want to create in your life? It's a hard question for a lot of
it,
us to answer. It's very confronting in many ways. And I don't think our brain often goes there naturally. We're in
yeah, we don't take the time
survival
to
mode.
reflect. Yeah, we don't take the time to reflect. And in life coaching, it's all about, I'm not going to give you the answers, but I'm going to give you some questions that you can just start, it's kind of
Opening
just
doors.
planning questions. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is what I want. Or I didn't think about that. It's
Yeah.
those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Well, that's so cool. Any last insights, or for somebody who's just, thinking about taking that first step?
Yeah, I do want to put a caveat in. When I talk about success, because this is really important for me, and I share this anytime when I'm on the social Facebook groups with the Shift Weight Release program. Um, for me, my journey has been one where I really just hit my goals in the times that I wanted. I'm now in a maintenance phase right now, which is a little different for me. I don't like it because I have more calories that I got to eat. What am I going to eat more? I don't want anymore. I don't want to lose any more weight. I want to stay kind of where I'm at. But for me, I know that the process can be relatively easy as I had it for now. Not to say that it can't be challenging down the road. And others find that, like my past attempts, that this is hard. And, you know, I'm giving it my best shot, but my best shot isn't making it. And I keep falling back and I'm getting discouraged. And it's things like that. And kind of what I always try to, kind of communicate to people is, you know, as long as you're kind of focused and you're staying on track, no matter if you take a few steps back, you're on the right path. That is success.
Yeah,
It's success that you're continuing the journey. It may take you a little longer. The vision that we have for ourselves doesn't always manifest in life coaching. You have a place where you want to go, but a lot of factors happen and you may end up in a totally different place with weight release. The vision that you might have might take a little longer, but I try to encourage people that success is an individual measure, and you can be very successful even if you've only lost a few pounds, but you're committed and staying on the journey.
absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Steve. What wise words. Well, thank you. It's been so amazing to have you on Thin Thinking. And I think there's probably a lot of women, but guys out there who are appreciative of what you've had to share today. So thank you for coming and casting your sunshine on us. Appreciate
Thanks a
it.
lot, Rita. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks, Steve. And if you are interested in perhaps learning more about Steve's life coaching sessions, I have left his contact info in the show notes. And Steve has also generously given me a playlist of his oldies that he works out to. So go ahead and grab that playlist as well. It's in the show notes. And one last call to sign up for that free masterclass. The link is in the show notes, called How to Break Through the Weight Struggle Cycle so that you can lose weight consistently and permanently. You have one more week to sign up, but sign up now. There's a little audio to listen to. Just, you want to prepare. And if for whatever reason you are listening to this after the date of the masterclass, check the show notes anyway, because I always leave you a little love in the show notes, a little free something, whether it's a masterclass or a video series or a free hypnosis session. Go check it out. I don't want you to leave empty-handed. All right, so have an amazing week, and remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. Do you want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release? Head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking: Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.